name's Charlie Tadduni. I spent 21 years in public education. I'm a former teacher and also a former middle school principal. There's a knock at the door. Someone dressed like a mailman. And he said, "We're delivering packages because a lot of people were complaining that packages were getting stolen off their porches." So I take the package and I bring it inside and put it on the counter. Maybe about 20 minutes later, there was a knock on the door. And it was a knock that wasn't a friendly knock. Let's just remain calm. So I answered the door, and then there was two plainclothes officers there, and asked if I had gotten a package. I said, "It's on the counter." Asked if I wouldn't mind coming down to answer some questions. I said, "Sure." As I'm being let out of the house, cars are pulling up to the house, some marked, some unmarked. More than seems, necessary. I was brought down to the sheriff's department and questioned about what was in the package. I said, "When you delivered it, the guy said that people were stealing things off people's porches. How do I know someone wasn't just delivering it to my house? They were gonna leave it on the porch and then come and get it."
What was in the package?
There was ayahuasca in the package. I mean, I knew what was in the package. I was asked by a community that I do work with if I would be okay getting a package delivered for sacramental purposes. The benefits that I've gotten from working with plant medicine, I don't even really know if I could quantify what it's done for my life and how it's changed me. I saw them as sacred plant medicines being used by grown adults to advance their own spiritual growth. Clearly, they were saying it differently. That went on for, a couple hours, I guess. It was while I was down at the station and they were questioning me that they found psilocybin in the house. They found an ounce of mushrooms in my freezer, and they found a couple of tablespoons of a powder in my refrigerator. I told them that I was using it to microdose for my anxiety and depression. One of the officers commented when I said that, like, "Oh yeah, I hear people do use that." I got the sense that the officers didn't even seem like they wanted to be there. From there, they released me without charging me with anything yet. I don't think they wanted to deal with ayahuasca at all. So instead, they decided to charge me with the psilocybin. Their deal was misdemeanor, 50 hours community service. It was the best way to go for me. It really just solidified my belief in working with these medicines and my belief that they really need to be legalized. So I went to court, which was down the road from my house. I had prepared a statement to read. "Good evening, Honorable Justice and Assistant District Attorney. I readily admit before you that I was experimenting using psilocybin in the privacy of my own residence under the tutelage of a psychologist who will remain nameless to help with anxious and depressive bouts that I have struggled with in the 10 years prior to my work with medicines. I would like to point out that there are hundreds of recent studies and clinical trials going on worldwide at this moment using psilocybin therapy to treat PTSD, childhood trauma in adults, addiction, depression, anxiety, as well as for end-of-life care. The results they are seeing are not only encouraging, but at times miraculous. These are the same results that I have seen in my life. I went from an anxious, closed-off, emotionally unavailable person to someone who's transformed his relationships with my parents, my daughters, my partner, and most importantly, myself. My calling to be of continued service to humanity, my love for this world and all its creatures, and my mission to raise my consciousness has never been greater. The mushrooms that contain psilocybin are a naturally occurring substance that grows wild and has been used for eons as a sacrament in many indigenous cultures. In these paths, there is no separation between spiritual health, mental health, and physical health. And it has been my direct lived experience that this is in fact true and real. My experience with mushrooms has been one of a spiritually deep connection to what we might call God or the source, a huge heart opening in my life that lasts well beyond the time of actually taking the mushrooms. It's interesting to note that tobacco and alcohol, which we all know are highly addictive and terrible for our health, unlike psilocybin or ayahuasca, are readily available everywhere in the United States. Just recently, a bill to decriminalize psilocybin was presented to the New York State Assembly, and when passed, New York would follow the state of Oregon and states and cities across the country that have or are considering legalizing and decriminalizing psilocybin. And so, I stand here today, a sovereign being, an upstanding citizen who worked 20 years as a civil servant to the state of New York without any criminal record, not even a speeding ticket. And quite honestly, I'm a bit dumbfounded as to why I'm even here. I also recognize that others in this country are not as fortunate as me. My lawyer was able to work out a nice agreement for me with the DA, and I feel forced to accept that current agreement. However, I must say it feels like we are settling on something that doesn't quite smell right. I look forward to the day, which I assume will be soon, when New York State will legalize mushrooms, and this charge will be expunged from my record and the records of numerous people who are attempting to cure and enlighten themselves. Thank you for your time and service to our community. Respectfully, Charles Joseph Tadduni.